Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video. Today where I'm going to review the Unshackled Kill Team from the June 2023 White Dwarf. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of this warband review. Remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, as well as a affiliate link at Element Games and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. But let's get into things. So yeah, if you weren't aware, in June, because we're in June right now, we actually got a White Dwarf team for Kill Team, but in an interesting way. It's our first narrative only Kill Team. So I'll be reviewing all of that and going through this Kill Team while I try and wait for the balanced data slate. But let's get into the video. So for the narrative for this Kill Team, it's basically based around, you know, a very high-level, high-powered rogue psyker and their cultists, effectively. And it's based off a short story in the White Dwarf where you have the Hand of the Archon fighting the Exaction Squad on the Gallow Dark, and then, you know, this is one of the prisoners that breaks out from the ship, the Exaction Squad one. And it's a really interesting twist on this because we haven't really had such a narrative focus before, well, you know, excluding Ashes of Faith. But it's a really interesting way for us to get new kill teams, and it's really nice. More unique stuff in like the Warhammer 40,000 universe. It's really cool. So the roster is weird because it doesn't exist. Because if you weren't aware, in narrative play, you don't have any archetypes. Just pick whatever archetype you want and you go ahead. But as you can see in the image above, the Cult of the Unshackled come in a special freeway mission. But if you wanted to use them generally, they consist of a leader, which is the prisoner, and then 10 thrall operatives. So it's an 11 operative kill team. So it's pretty interesting, right? And that's effectively a roster. No special rules, nothing like that. You just have that. So 10 operatives and a leader. Interesting. So first up, you have your thralls. So you get 10 of these, and they're all 7 wounds with a 6-up armor save. So they can either have a firearm with a gun butt. So that's basically 4 attacks hit on 5s, 2-3, with 3 attacks hit on 4s, 2-3 in melee, or a pistol and crude melee weapon, which is the same as your shooting attack but range red with +1 attack. They have Mastered Will, so each time a friendly prisoner operative is visible and within white of this operative and is selected as a target of a combat or shooting attack, you can resolve the combat or shooting attack against the thrall instead. So it's kind of like an always active bodyguard. And then Scavenge weapons, it just tells you what it's equipped with. Generally, you kind of want to go with all melee weapons because remember, your melee weapon, you sacrifice infinite range for a better melee attack, and you kind of want the better melee. So that's pretty much it. Now we come to the prisoner. So this is your leader, has 10 wounds with a 6-up armor save and 3 APL. So it has 3 different range attacks and wordlit hands, which are 4 attacks, hit on 4s, 4-5 lethal 5 up with rending. Has burn, which is your long range shooting attack, which isn't bad. 4 attacks hit on 3s, 4-5 lethal 5 up. Then you have blaze, which is 5 attacks hit on 2s, 4-4 range red with torrent white, so it's super flamer. And then ignite, 4 attacks hit on 3s, 4-6 blast, which is pretty good. So for abilities, you've got Warp Field Constitution. This operative is a 4-pin run and a 5-up DPR. So every time you lose a wound on a 5-up, you don't. It's an extremist level psyker. So this operative can perform 2 shoot actions during its activation, but it cannot use each of its ranged weapons more than once per turning point. So you can do long range, like you can do burn and blaze, or burn and ignite, or ignite and blaze. This operative is such a powerful psyker that enemy operative abilities that affect this operative when it performs psychic actions or prevent it from doing so have no effect. So if you're a null, you're not strong enough and stuff like that. It's got unique action, so Soul Flame Parasite. For 1 action point, place 1 Soul Flame Parasite token in a location that's visible to this operative. The first time another operative, excluding prisoner operative, without a Soul Flame Parasite token moves them white of that token, gains that token and suffers D3 mortal wounds. Each time an operative with that token is activated, it suffers further D3 mortal wounds. If an operative with a Soul Flame Parasite token performs a pass action, remove that token. So it's an interesting way to apply damage over time. Really messes up elites. It's really interesting, very powerful, but kind of makes sense when you look at the kill team. Then you've got conflagration. Select one friendly for all operative visible to operative. That operative and all other operatives, excluding prison operatives, within white of it suffer d6 mortal wounds. So you kind of, you roll separately for each. So you kind of just go, yeah, I'm just going to blow that guy up, which is thematic, right? But those are the only operatives you have. You don't get equipment, so you do have a very powerful leader. Although I would have liked it to have more of the wounds. Now we come to the ploys. So for strategic ploys, you have on the run. So for 1 CP, D3 friendly cult of the Unshackled operatives that are not within line of sight of an enemy operative can immediately perform a free dash action, but they cannot finish that action within line of sight of the enemy operative. So it's basically like you need to stay concealed behind cover. Interesting. Strength in numbers. Until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly operative fights in combat or makes a shooting attack, if at least one other friendly operative fought in combat with or made a shooting attack against that same enemy operative in that turning point, in the roll attack dice step, you can reroll one of your attack dice. It's not bad, pretty good. And then you've got summon thralls. Set up D3 incapacitated thralls each time with an order of your choice, wholly within your drop zone with all their wounds regained. This ploy costs 1 additional command point for each of the previous times you've used it during the battle. So it's CP 1+. So 1 the first time you use it, 2 the next time, and 3 and so on. Tactical ploy. So you have Inferno. Use this ploy when a friendly prison operative is activated until the end of its activation. Each time the operative makes a shooting attack against enemy operatives within red of it, on the roll attack dice up of that shooting attack, you can reroll any or all of your attack dice results of 1 result, e.g. results of 2. So a nice way to, you know, buff your shooting. Volatile. Use this when a friendly prisoner operative loses a wound. Each other operative visible and within white of it suffers D3 mortal wounds. So the interesting thing, it doesn't trigger on incapacitation just when you lose a wound. So you can chip someone for 1 damage and suddenly everyone takes D3 more wounds. And it's really powerful when you combine it with like your leader blows someone up. So yes, so your operative suffers D6 more wounds, and then everyone else suffers D3 plus D6, which is crazy. Then you've got Fires of Revival. Use this during a friendly prisoner's activation. Incapacitate 1 thrall, visible and within blue of it. If you do that, prison operative gains D6 lost wounds. So basically, you're going to use this on your leader, effectively kill a friendly operative, and heal yourself D6 plus wounds. So not bad. And finally, you have the mission to actually use this kill team. So it's basically a freeway. So it's designed that Hand of the Archon and Exaction Squad versus the Cult of the Unshackled. But generally, you should be the more experienced player, and it's basically trying to walk towards the other side of the board intact to win. It's an interesting game mode, and it's a nice way to show off this kill team. I think it's pretty good. And obviously, they advise you to intro this as a way for new players. So the new players play the best spoke teams. You, as the experienced player, play Cult of the Unshackled. So it's quite interesting. So overall, what do I think of this kill team? It's fun, I think. It's not that powerful. Maybe because you can only have 10 cultists. If you could have 14, that'd actually be pretty cool. The cool thing about this kill team is it's a narrative-only kill team. You can use it competitively, but it would basically be down to the TO and the people you play with, because you would have to go like, maybe they can pick any archetype, but you have no equipment, so it's kind of weird. But I like what they were going with it. Like, it has a cool theme. You've got a nice leader, right? And you've basically just got chaff. So you spend your CP recycling chaff and blowing them up to either damage the opponent or heal your leader. But it's basically your game revolves around your leader. So if your leader dies, it's game over. But it's really cool, you know? And I think if we were to get more kill teams, I'm actually down for getting narrative-only kill teams, because for narrative-only kill teams, you could make them really thematically powerful, overwhelming, as long as they're fun and interesting to play. It's really cool, especially if they're designed around key missions and like what we can see in this White Dwarf. It's really cool. And the greatest thing about this kill team, allows you to do crazy modeling. So in White Dwarf, they use like the witch, the psyker from the Chaos Cult, and then 10 cultists. But I would personally use, you know, you've got the Delac psyker with the huge head. I'd use that and maybe like some Delac as well. Make them some really crazy, like spindly, like prisoners who have just like devolved and devoted themselves in their like hour of need to this crazy level psyker. So you can actually go really to town on it. And I think that's the best part. You can just make something crazy because there's no defined miniatures. So you can build whatever you want to your heart's content, you know. I think that's really fun. Interesting, quite restrained. I mean, like, as you can see, the biggest tactic is basically running a cultist in, having your leader blow them up, and then everyone within white of that operative taking d6 plus d3 mortal wounds. And you kind of just rinse and repeat. But remember, you're only 6 activations. Oddly, they don't do too bad into elites. I think they suffer against bigger teams. But this is a team, once again, that is meant for introing new players and is more a thematic thing. You could, like, the cool thing is, if you wanted to play this narratively, you could do something crazy like give this kill team like 20 cult operatives, like 20 cultists and the psyker, and then make a scenario around that, like at the end of an Ashes of Faith campaign or something for your own narrative games. And I think that's probably the coolest part. And that's probably what I would recommend if you wanted to make them like this big evil bad, giving 20 cultists and the psyker. Like that would be really interesting to play against. Tons of activations, but you know, it's more for narrative. You're trying to settle a story. And I think that's the coolest part. Unfortunately, if you want to get this kill team, the only way is via White Dwarf. Eventually it will go on Warhammer Plus, but remember, if you do, you'll want the June 2023 White Dwarf. But I mean, I've already posted all the rules, but if you wanted a hard copy, you know, but it's nice. I really like that we did get eventually a White Dwarf team this year for Kill Team. Maybe not in the way we all wanted, but I like this kind of content. So if you know, down for playing narrative, highly recommend this Kill Team. Seems like a lot of fun. You might have to tweak it to make it a bit more playable if your opponent is probably running bespoke teams. But it's fun. It's pretty cool. But that's pretty much it for me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of this video. Do you agree or disagree? Do you like this kill team or not? Let me know how you would build your own Cult of the Unshackled Kill Team. You know, interested to hear how you would approach it. And remember, I've got a Discord you can check down in the episode description below for free, as well as an affiliate link at Element Games and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And I'll quickly shout out my patrons. So for my adepts of the crit, I have Sam, Nicholas, Nick, Mr. Meatwad, Kenzie, John Thomas, Eric, Captain Murder, Dad of Goldens, Ben, Average Joe 27, and Arthur. And then for my veterans of the crit, I have Samja. So thank you so much for all your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, this is just weird, right? I think this is actually a really good release. But I am kind of stalling. I'm in this weird position where I want to make more kill team content, but I kind of need to wait for the balanced data slate affects what I want to do with guides and stuff. So kind of stuck. Plus it's really hot and I'm struggling to paint and play. But if you're watching this on Friday or this week and you're down in Warhammer World for the narrative tournament, I will be there. I'm actually gonna play all weekend narratively. My first narrative event. So it's gonna be pretty cool. So if you're down there, say hi. But until next time, no matter how powerful escape prisoners may be, remember there's always a chance to win as long as you can roll a crit.